Hello everyone, my name is Katherine Baldwin and I am a love, dating and relationships coach and a midlife mentor and the author of this book, How to Fall in Love, a 10-Step Journey to the Heart. So it's 6:30 and I am just beginning this live broadcast. So as I mentioned, I'm the author of the book, How to Fall in Love. I also coach women and men to form a healthy and loving relationship with themselves so that they can go on and form a healthy and loving relationship with another. Now, the most important thing about my background and my credentials is that I have done it. So I fell in love and I got married. Now, I didn't fall in love when I was very young. It wasn't a straightforward journey. It was a very complex, torturous journey, lots of ups and downs, lots of dysfunctional relationships, always chasing unavailable, emotionally unavailable men, not loving myself, not valuing myself. So, it was really important for me to go on my own journey first so that I could then help others on their journey. So just before I start to talk about what we'll be discussing today, perhaps you could just put a quick comment in the box to tell me that you can see me well and that you can hear me clearly. And perhaps you could say where you're watching from. That would be nice to know. Okay, brilliant. You can hear me and you can see me. Thank you, Georgia. Welcome. So, so what I'd like to talk about today are some topics that come up all the time with my coaching clients, on my How to Fall in Love courses, and on my retreats, and that are especially relevant right now during, the coronavirus pandemic. So nobody expected to be facing this time, and especially not if you're looking to find love, if you're looking to go dating. The lockdown that many countries experienced, depending on where you are in the world, but many countries experienced a lockdown. We couldn't go dating, we couldn't meet people face to face. Hi, Carolyn, thanks for saying hello. So what happens? What happens when we have been in lockdown? Well, many of us, especially if we are living alone, we have been starved of physical contact, we have been starved of touch. And what happens in that situation is that we start craving. We start craving touch. We start craving physical contact. And these are basic human needs. They're really important for our survival. They're important for our well-being. So, welcome, Anne. So maybe you could just say in the comments whether you have been living alone during this period of lockdown, whether you were single during this period of lockdown or during this pandemic, and whether you are feeling a real need for physical contact and for touch and for hugs, which is entirely normal. It's one of our basic needs. But the problem, as I often say, and if you know my book or my courses, you will know that I often say that there's a real problem about going dating with a craving. So when we go dating with a craving, with a deep, deep need, with a desperation, with a panic, with a need for touch and physical contact because we've been starved for so long, we end up choosing or going for the first person who walks in front of us. So I often say that dating with a craving is like going supermarket shopping when you are starving. So going grocery shopping when you are starving and you start panic buying and you put anything in your basket, you aren't discerning. And we want to avoid that at all costs. So this video is designed to help you to avoid that. And Leah says, yes, I think you mean that you've been living alone and you have experienced, perhaps experienced this lack of physical touch. So how can we avoid getting into scrapes? And this is what I talk about all the time. And I talk about this from experience. I got into a lot of scrapes when I was dating. So I went dating with low self-esteem, with a lack of sense of worth, or I didn't know my value. Alice, yeah, you miss hugs. That's entirely normal. I went dating without a connection to myself, without, without being connected to myself, my feelings, and my intuition. And I also went dating unaware that I was dating terrified, that I had some really deep fears that were sabotaging my relationships. And those fears drove really unhealthy patterns. So I'm going to talk about 3 pillars this evening, 3 pillars for healthy dating. The first pillar is your connection with yourself and your connection with your intuition, your connection with your feelings. Now you might say, yeah, I'm pretty connected to myself. I know what's going on. I know how I'm feeling. But just listen for a couple of these markers as to whether you might be disconnected. So if you are overeating, if you are eating on your feelings, if you are eating on loneliness, if you are eating on anxiety, if you are drinking too much alcohol, if you are smoking, if you are compulsively watching TV or scrolling through social media, anything that we do in a compulsive way suggests that we are trying to disconnect from our feelings. We are trying to numb our feelings. And as you'll know, if you've read my book, How to Fall in Love, I spent most of my late teens and 20s and into my early 30s actively disconnecting from my feelings. I did that through binge eating, through compulsively exercising, through compulsively working, compulsively seeking adrenaline fixes, adventure, danger. And I did that through dysfunctional relationships. So I dated people with whom there were real ups and downs, who couldn't meet my needs, for 1 minute I was ecstatic with that person, the next minute I was on the floor. So these dysfunctional relationships, I guess they help me to numb my feelings as well. So if you can relate to any of those behaviors, numbing your feelings in any way, just put a yes in the box. It's good to know. It's good to know that I'm not alone with the behaviors that sustained me for many years. And if you have been experiencing coronavirus and you have been living on your own, there is absolutely no shame or embarrassment in having indulged in some comforting behaviors. But what we want to do when we consider going dating is we want to make sure that we are comforting ourselves, that we are soothing ourselves, that we know how we are feeling, that we know whether we are anxious or scared or sad or lonely, that we are connected to those feelings and connected to ourselves. So yeah, there's a couple of yeses, and not just during the pandemic. Yeah, people have been alone and craving connection for a long time. So we need to learn to soothe ourselves, to soothe our anxieties, our stresses, to know how to understand what we're feeling in that moment. And that will help us when we go dating. So if we are connected to our feelings, we are able to say, I'm not sure I feel safe on this date. I'm not sure if I feel valued on this date. I'm not sure if I am enjoying myself. I'm not sure if that comment that came my way on that website, I don't think that was good for me. If you can tune into those feelings, then you can date. You can discern who is a healthy potential date or partner. You can set boundaries, and you can say, I'd rather not. I'd rather you didn't speak to me like that. You can state your value and your worth. You can, you can close down that conversation. So I hope you understand the importance of being connected to your feelings, because they are our guide. Our feelings are like signposts. Our feelings they are our friends. And there's an exercise that I love you to do. You can do it every morning, and it's on my YouTube channel. So just Google Katherine Baldwin and you'll find my YouTube channel. And there's an exercise where we connect with our hearts and we ask ourselves what's going on inside. Because if you close your eyes and put your hand on your heart and connect with a feeling of craving, loneliness, lack of love, desperate for touch, if you connect to that, then you can find ways to soothe that in a healthy way so that when you go dating, that craving isn't there. You might still want touch, you might still want to be close to somebody, and that's normal. But your craving won't be overriding your common sense and your sense of worth and sense of value. So there's a few yeses again. So I understand that some of the things I'm talking about are familiar to you. And the good news is there's a way of resolving all this. And I stand here as someone who has done that. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm perfect or my life is perfect, but I did manage to form a healthy and loving relationship in my 40s after many years of dysfunction, singleness, loneliness, binge eating, compulsive behaviors. And I got married in June last year. So I'm coming up to my 1 year anniversary. And I also know that it's possible because my clients are doing really well. So some of the women who are taking my courses, you know, some of them, you might ask whether it's worth dating right now. But some of my clients are dating for the first time in many, many years, even just as we come out of lockdown, and they are actually enjoying it because they feel more connected to themselves. They feel more in touch with themselves. They feel bolder and braver and more able to say what they want on a date, in a relationship. They know their boundaries. They can set their boundaries. So even though it's difficult to meet people, you can go on a socially distanced picnic, and one of my clients did that, and you know, she said it was the most enjoyable date she's been on in a very long time. And the good news about the social distancing is that it means that this craving that might be going on, if you stick to the rules, it means that you're not in danger of getting physical too fast. So in the past, I used to get physical too fast with all the people I was dating, and I'd end up in a relationship. Surprise! And I hadn't even thought about it. I didn't know if I wanted to be in it. I didn't know if this person was right for me. But I just went with the physical. I went with the hormones. They led me down that path. And I didn't even ask myself if that was the right relationship for me. So I wonder if that's familiar to you. Perhaps if it is, you could say yes. Hello. Hello, Annette. And thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, it was quite a journey. So if it feels familiar that you have dated with a craving, or that your desire for physical intimacy has overridden your common sense or your sense of what's right for you or what's good for you, then just say yes. And thank you, Amy. There is hope. There is hope. And I'll leave some links at the end. There are some links in the write-up where you can find out more about some of the things that I do to help women and men date more successfully and find a loving relationship. So that's the first pillar I've talked about. It is the connection to self, connection to feelings, connection to your intuition. So your intuition is in here. Sometimes we can't find it, but it is in here. The second pillar for healthy dating as lockdown eases is really healthy self-esteem. So do I value myself? Do I believe in my value and my worth? Do I believe that I am lovable? And I'm talking on a really deep level. What comes up in lots of conversations with my clients is they might think they're likable, but not lovable on a really deep level. Or they might think that they're lovable, but not likable. And this question about lovability often goes way back to our childhoods, to our past, to our earliest experiences with men or women in our lives. Did we receive a wound, a self-esteem wound? Were we scarred in some way? Did somebody say something that made us feel less than, not worthy? Did somebody leave? And because we were a child, we thought it was our fault, that there was something wrong with us. Did somebody die? And somehow we thought it was our fault, that they left us, they abandoned us. So if you experienced rejection, abandonment, all those things, anything like that in your early life, You may have come away with a self-esteem wound. And then that self-esteem wound goes dating. And what happens when we go dating with a deep self-esteem wound? Well, we will do that thing. We'll go grocery shopping when we're starving. We'll put anything in our baskets. We will, we won't value ourselves. So, for example, one of my clients recently was invited to go dating. The man wanted to meet somewhere in the middle of nowhere. She decided that she wanted to meet in town. And in the past, perhaps she would have gone along with what he said. But because she is learning to value herself, she said no, she wanted to meet in town. So holding on to your sense of self-worth, your sense of value, your sense of I deserve good treatment. And we get that feeling of deserving good treatment by the way we treat ourselves. So I have 2 mantras that come up all the time on my courses. Self-esteem comes from doing esteemable things, and we teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves. So your second pillar is your self-esteem. Do I have healthy self-esteem? Am I doing esteemable things for myself? Am I loving myself? Am I nurturing myself? Am I eating well? Am I taking time off from work and the computer? Am I standing up for myself on dates? Am I being, am I standing up for my value and my worth? And you might want to answer that question as well in the chat. You could, do you believe in your value and worth? Do you believe that you are lovable? Do you believe that you have a right to ask for what you want? Do you believe that your needs deserve to be met? And you will see that by the way you are meeting those needs yourself. So it's important to meet as many of your needs as possible. So the next pillar, the third pillar, so I've talked about our connection to ourselves, our feelings and our intuition. That's the first pillar. The second pillar is healthy self-esteem, which comes from doing esteemable things, from standing up for ourselves, from meeting our own needs. The third pillar is an awareness of your relationship patterns, your past patterns, and an awareness of how your fears have driven your patterns. So I could talk about this for hours, and I actually have a whole webinar on my YouTube channel. I might ask my PA Georgia if she can just put my YouTube channel in the comments when she has a moment. So I have a whole video on this, on fears and patterns. But what's really important to know is if you can look at your relationship patterns over the years, and if you can see that there's a common thread. In my case, I was always attracted to unavailable men. I was always attracted to men who were emotionally unavailable, physically unavailable, living on a different continent. I ran away from the available ones, the ones who wanted to be with me. And so my pattern was avoidance of love, avoidance of intimacy, avoidance of relationship. And it didn't look like that because I was dating, but I was dating unavailable people, which meant that I could avoid intimacy and I could avoid relationship. So once I understood that pattern of avoidance of intimacy, I could then look at why I was doing that. I could look at the fear that lay beneath it. And for many of us, understandably, we have really deep fears about love, about intimacy, about relationship, because we were hurt in the past. We were hurt in those early relationships, perhaps in a romantic relationship early on, we were hurt and we don't want to do it again. And that's human behavior. But the problem is we will then isolate ourselves, lock ourselves away and avoid relationship. And as I said, it might not look like that. You might be compulsively dating. So you think, well, I'm not afraid of relationship, but look at the people you are dating. Are they available? So that is your third pillar, an awareness of your fears and an awareness of your patterns and how they are connected. So I always say that our hurt happened in relationship and our healing happens in relationship too. So we actually have to be in it to win it. We have to be doing it in order to heal. But I don't suggest that we do it until we are ready, which is why I have a number of courses, a number of levels of courses. I'm going to ask my PA Georgia just to put my courses there in the chat box. I have my Laying the Foundations course, which is all about self-esteem and self-worth and fears and patterns. And then I have my Date with Courage, Clarity and Confidence course, which is all about dating with courage, clarity and confidence. So you want to do this with support. It could be with me, it could be with someone else, but you want to go, if you haven't mastered this yet, and there's no shame in that. As I said, I got married at 48. So there's no shame in that. But it is worth really having a go at changing this and doing it with some support. So you might want to try my book, How to Fall in Love, A 10-Step Journey to the Heart. It talks about my story and my journey. You might want to take a look at my courses, and Georgia will put the courses and the book in the comments right now, or you'll find the links at the top of the page. So there's a question. What do you say to those that are scared of dating online instead of trusting fate? What do I say to those who are scared of dating online instead of trusting fate? I don't know if I understand the question. Perhaps you could rephrase it as I wrap up. I'm going to have to wrap up now. But what do you say to those that are scared of dating online instead of trusting fate? Well, I would say go for it. I would say check your foundations. Do I have healthy self-esteem? Do I have awareness of my fears and my patterns? Do I have a strong connection to myself? Am I well supported? Have I let go of core beliefs, negative core beliefs? All those things that I do on the first 5 steps of my course, the Laying the Foundations course. First 5 chapters of my book, you can find them there too. So have you check all those, and then I would say go for it with support. So someone says they love being single, and that's wonderful. So if you love being single, great. And then when there's a moment when you would rather not be single and you'd like to be in a relationship, then you could start asking yourself these questions. I think I probably thought I loved being single, and I did for a number of years. But then I found that I actually wanted to be in a relationship, and a lot of my behaviours were about avoidance of relationship. So I'm going to start wrapping up. Thank you for watching. I will recap: connection to yourself, your feelings, your intuition, a healthy self-esteem that comes from loving yourself, caring for yourself, doing lots of self-caring actions, standing up for yourself, and an awareness of your fears and your patterns. So, okay, you've been in a marriage and now you're a widow. Okay, and you love your freedom. Now just remember that with Psychologies, if you're a subscriber, you can access the Psychologies Life Leap Club for lots of wonderful coaching videos and talks. And if you want to know anything about me, you'll find the links in the write-up, and my PA will put some in the chat for my book and my courses and my website. And if you'd like to book one of my free 30-minute discovery calls, you can find that on katherinebaldwin.com. So I wish you all the luck and love in the world. And if you have lost hope in the area of dating, let me encourage you. I also lost hope, and then I fell in love and got married. So there is always time. You might just need to look inside, step inside, understand what's going on, understand your fears and your patterns, and change some behaviours. So thanks very much, and you can always get in touch with me via my website and book one of my discovery calls. Take care. Bye.